we have breaking news out of the NFL where the Browns have named Joe Flacco as their starting quarterback. He beat out Kenny Pickett and rookies Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders for that QB1 job in Cleveland. The 40-year-old Flacco entering his 18th NFL season and his second stint in Cleveland. Last year, he started 6 games for the Colts, throwing 12 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Flacco will make his 2025 NFL debut on September 7th while they host the Bengals. Danny Cannell joining us now with this breaking news. Joe Flacco named the starting QB. We were just talking about it earlier. Did they make the right choice, Danny?
Yes, I think this is zero surprise to anybody that's followed the Browns this offseason. Joe Flacco is the seasoned veteran who's played a ton of football with a very good defense, a running game, and a revamped wide receiving core. They're just hoping they get stability. And what a coach is always going to lean to is the known versus the unknown. And I know it's going to be hard for people to understand because they're like, well, some guys popped during the preseason and Shedeur looked great in a half of football. We already know what Joe Flacco can do. We're not 100% certain. I know it's great, but preseason football is different than regular season football. The good news is, for the Browns, I think you develop some depth behind Joe Flacco so that if it doesn't work out or if he gets hurt, they have plenty of options to turn to if he should struggle or if he gets hurt. So I think all of this is pretty much what I expected, most people expected from Kevin Stefanski from this announcement was all along going to be Joe Flacco.
There's a stat coming out from Heath Cummings right now. Joe Flacco, last 17 starts in the NFL, 4,755 yards and 32 touchdowns.
That's pretty impressive.
I gotta confirm that, but if those numbers are correct.
How far back do you have to go for him to start 17 games?
Starts,
that may be a while back, but the guy can sling it, you know, and the way that, so I think you hear 40-year-old quarterback, we have to readjust our minds. We already saw Brady play into his 40s. The NFL is a different product now. It's not as taxing on your body, especially as a quarterback. How much they protect you and you're not allowed to get hit. It's not that intimidating to be 40 years old and go against all these young guys when you don't have to worry about guys ripping your head off. He
spoke with our Aditi Kinkambwala a few weeks ago, and he said, I feel like I still have a lot to bring. I don't want to be a backup. I want to play football. So what is the expectation now that the Browns have? How many games are we looking at that you could see them potentially going out there and winning?
I think they could be a 9 or a 10 win team. I mean, and I do like the makeup of this team. I think the style of play of what they want to do offensively suits Joe Flacco well. I think it's one of the reasons that Shedeur excelled in the preseason because it's more of a play action, pocket passer type of system, which I think fits Flacco to a T. I know they've got to figure out Quinshon Judkins and some of the issues that are going on with him, but I really like Dylan Sampson, their pick that they took a little bit later to possibly step in and fill a void in the backfield for them. So, and then we got to think about what they did this offseason too with Myles Garrett, paying him. Their defense, I think, is going to be one of the things for them to hang their hat on. Mason Graham, one of the rookie first-round picks that they brought in there, is a player that potentially could wreak some havoc. So I think it is more of a traditional offensive style where you're taking some play-action shots down the field, trying to run the football, and playing really good, aggressive defense.
So what does this mean for the QB room? Okay, so we got now Kenny Pickett, we have Dillon Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders, all like sitting in the wings. Do we keep 4 quarterbacks on the roster?
No, I don't think so. That is just, there's too many. It's a numbers game, and you don't really have that luxury of being able to keep 4. I think Kenny Pickett's probably the odd man out. Do they try to move him? But very rarely do you see a team move on from their drafted young quarterbacks, whether it's a 3rd rounder or a 5th rounder, which is Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, drafts slots. So I think they probably go with the youth movement behind Flacco, which again is a great opportunity for those young players. Kenny Pickett, I'm a little bit disappointed, I'm sure he is either, that he couldn't take over that job. He is somebody who was there earlier, could have competed, had an equal footing with Joe Flacco. I know he's been banged up a little bit, wasn't able to actually get on the field, but I just wonder if this might have been his last opportunity to be that starter in the NFL, and it came up just short, and I wonder if he's the odd man out of this room.
All right, Danny Cannell with this breaking news. Joe Flacco is going to be your starting quarterback. News out of the NFL. The Browns naming Joe Flacco as their starting quarterback. Aditi Kinkambwala, who's been very tight with this team. She's going to join us next.
In to give us a skinny of what he saw last night, and I just told you right there, Caleb looking like he's at home in Johnson's system. What did you take away from that performance?
B, I love the decisiveness of Caleb Williams. I know you like this term, burping the baby, and that's what he did too far often last season. He just took a ridiculous amount of sacks. People will say it was on the O-line, but if you go back and watch the tape, Caleb Williams just held on to the ball entirely too long. That's not what I saw in this Ben Johnson's offense last night. He was decisive, knew exactly where to go with the football, got his tight ends involved early, and Colston Loveland, Cole Kmet down the seam. We actually just saw that highlight right before we came on live. But also, Ben Johnson being inventive, right? He finds Zacchaeus in a bunch set, but he gives him an option route versus a safety. Your slot receiver should win that every time, and Caleb knew exactly where to go with the football because he knew the coverage he was getting. He was getting man coverage. So that was what was important to me. He was so decisive on that first drive coming out, which we didn't see last year, his rookie year.
So far, a big leap compared to what we saw, as you mentioned there, heading into the season. Of course, we need to see more once we get to week 1. Outside of that, we always talk about the offensive guys, but Austin Booker making some flashes. He had a 4th sack this preseason so far. Is this something that he can carry over in year 2 for the Bears?
Well, the Bears needed a Robin to his Batman. They signed Dayo Odeyingbo, who can play on the outside and inside. They need that third end, and I believe Austin Booker could be that guy that can consistently get pressure off the edge for them.
So the Bears, looks like they have a quarterback in the future. Austin Booker, maybe more pressure help on that defense. When you go over to New Orleans and the Saints, we're still trying to figure out the QB. I want to put you in the head coaching role. We've seen both up to this point, ups and downs. Who are you starting week 1 based on what you've seen so far?
Yeah, it's tough. You go back and forth between Tyler Shuck and Spencer Rattler, and to me, nobody has really separated themselves. I feel like Spencer Rattler's played a little bit better. Tyler Shuck got the start the other day in the preseason game, and then some things that were concerning, right? There's all-out blitzes on 3rd down. He didn't know where to go with the football. He had a crosser wide open. Also, protection bust. Now, that's not on the quarterback. Simple ET games. We just talked about a tackle in game. An in-tackle game comes scot-free, and then he just kind of like is deer in the headlights, holds the ball, and gets a sack. Now, Spencer Rattler did throw an interception this last game, but the tape says something different. Tipton, his receiver, is supposed to get flat on that slant route, and that's what Spencer Rattler was expecting. He stopped on the route, and Spencer was already letting the ball go. So people will say, well, when you look at it, Tyler Shuck played a little bit cleaner, but the tape tells you that that was more on the receiver than the actual quarterback. But right now, nobody's really separated themselves in this race, and if that's the case, you would think maybe Tyler Shuck gets the nod just because this new coaching staff was the group that picked him, but I've seen a little bit more from Spencer Rattler, so I would give him the start.
All right, so it's a 2-man race there when it comes to the Saints in Cleveland. It's about 24 guys in line, myself, Zach, and you. We're all in it as well when it comes to naming the starter in Cleveland. I mean, 99% chance that it is Joe Flacco. Your thoughts
Correct.
on that, if that is the way that they are going?
Just the way they've handled Joe Flacco throughout the preseason. He hasn't taken one snap in any preseason action. That lets you know that Kevin Stefanski's trust him. Let's not forget, when Joe was on the couch 2 years ago, he helped lead the Cleveland Browns to the playoffs, was the backup to Anthony Richardson last year. Actually came in and had some ups and downs for the Indianapolis Colts, but the passing game actually took off when Joe Flacco took over. So you see it right there, the NFL experience. Shout out to Joe Flacco. I believe him and Calais Campbell, the only guys left in my draft class still playing from the 08 draft class. Kenny Pickett, you see it, his 4th year. We haven't seen him, Brandon. They traded a 5th-round pick for him, and we have not seen Kenny Pickett on the field. There's no way they're keeping 4 quarterbacks. I think Kevin Stefanski even spoke to that. To me right now, even though they traded a 5th-round pick for him, I believe Kenny Pickett's on the chopping block just because we haven't seen him throughout the whole preseason. And they're hoping that somebody eventually is going to need a backup quarterback. And Kenny Pickett, you see, it has 4 years of experience, former 1st-round pick. Somebody will most likely call the Browns to see if they can get him right before the waiver wires, because if that doesn't happen, I believe Kenny Pickett is going to get cut on this team.
Real quick, Leger, because I'm curious, when you talk about the Saints and the Browns here, and it's up in the air with quarterbacks, if you're in that locker room and you're wondering who your starting quarterback is, you know, what's the vibe around the players there?
It's tough. By this time of year, Brandon, you want to know who's going to be the leader behind center, right? That way you can just lift him up, be around him, build him up. And that's the thing, right? When there's indecision going into preseason week 3, there's some cause for concerns if you're the Saints and the Browns. Now, the Saints, I think it's a little bit different because these are both young players, right? You have a second-year player and a rookie, and you kind of know where you're at in regards to the rebuild there in New Orleans. But for the Browns, you have a guy that has immense experience, but also there's some deficiencies on your roster. So a lot of people say, why not just throw the younger guys out there and see what you got? Because there's a good potential that you're going to be picking pretty high in the draft. And quote unquote, this is another great quarterback class. I always say air quotes with that because you truly never know until these guys play. But if I'm the Browns, I'm leaning on these young guys because I need to see what's in my locker room. Do we have the future franchise quarterback? If not, we have a lot of draft capital. Let's not forget, Brandon, they traded with the Jacksonville Jaguars, so they acquired an extra first-round pick. So if they don't feel like the guy is currently on the roster for the future, they can get another guy next year. So to me, the Browns and the Saints should be in the same scenario in playing the younger guys, but I believe Joe Flacco will be the starting quarterback. But if you're a guy in that locker room, you're scratching your head because we're heading into preseason week 3 and we haven't named the starting quarterback.
For the Bengals, they'll be scratching their head because they still have to figure out what they're going to do with Trey Hendrickson. Obviously, there's no deal. He wants a certain amount of money. They're not giving it to him. Now they're listening to offers from other teams. Your thoughts on the situation in Cincy?
Brandon, I honestly don't get it, right? Last year, you had one of the most prolific offenses. In losses, they scored on offense over 27.8 points a game. And that's what they averaged throughout the year. So even in losses, they were scoring upwards of 30 points, Brandon, and still losing. This is the best defensive player on your roster. So if you were bad with him last year, just imagine how bad you're going to be without him. And you put this precedence on paying Joe Shiesty's offensive weapons, right? You brought his 2 receivers back. But did that help you last year? And you see it, most sacks in the season last year by a Bengals player. He had the most sacks in the NFL, period, last year. Matter of fact, Brandon, when you look at the last 2 years, he has more sacks than anybody in the league, and it's by 5. I think T.J. Watt is second behind him with 5 less sacks over the last 2 years. You see it back-to-back 17.5 sack seasons. So if you feel like you're going to have a prolific offense, why not get one of the best closers in the game under contract? The market is the market, Bengals. Stop trying to change it and make new precedents when it comes to contracts and what players should be paid. Because this is why people are saying the Bengals are the Bengals. You keep messing around, you're going to be 9-8 again, and it's going to be Cancun on 3.
Ooh, I knew that'd get you fired up. That's what we needed to end the show there. My guy, Jayden will down with defense. Appreciate it as always, my friend. That just means we're getting closer.